kind of like we're kind of fledging along and stuff, and it was really fun. Dave and another friend, they were going somewhere and they needed to borrow something from me that I had. And I thought, okay, this is great. I'll loan him something and no big deal. And then he wanted to know what he could do for exchange. And I'm saying, man, I need an admin scale. And I don't know a damn thing about it. Not enough to do a good admin scale. So that's how this is how this actually started, because Dave and his wife came to a couple of the meetings. They were very interested. And Dave put together this fantastic org board, admin scale, and it's morphed a few times, but it's even better than it was. So that's kind of how that got going. The group will survive better, and a group can actually help others. If you're just an individual, it's going to be pretty difficult to help anyone. Because if you're leaving, like I've got 4 daughters and a son, and then a wife, and it's like, if there was any kind of unrest and I had to walk down to the LA org or something like that, and it's, 18 miles, I'm probably not going to be coming back right away. And I want to help, but I don't know that I feel good leaving the family at home, somewhat unprotected. So, if it's that kind of situation where it's that severe, big kind of situation like that, earthquake, which is entirely real, you want to have a group so that maybe 4 or 5 of us could run off to the orgs and see how we can help, and yet leave 3 or 4 guys to mind the fort. And that's why we have these, we called them pods originally. I think now we call them clubs. But the idea is that you have a group together that you could combine efforts and share supplies, and all those guys that come there with nothing, you wouldn't really open the door for. So the whole idea is, again, be prepared beforehand. This is a very, very part-time activity, too. This is not something you spend a lot of time and money on. It's just, you just keep putting it there, you keep putting it there. That's like these meetings are great, because you can just keep putting it there. Oh, that's a great idea, I should get some of that. I should maybe have that. You just got to keep stressing it and put it there, because we get so complacent, we're so busy, and this is not a full-time job by any means. You can't afford to do that. I mean, we're all on course or doing services or working or whatever. You can't, just need to keep putting it there. That's what it is. You're going to keep putting it there. It'll get bigger and bigger as time goes on. Your supplies will get better. Field trips probably were good. We're going to try to start getting some field trips going. We did a cooking demonstration one time on different cooking sources. We have our meetings at Delphi Academy in LA, so it's a great little out in a rural area. And outside we went and did a big cooking demonstration. We had like 7, 8 different cooking setups guys brought in, from the rocket stove. Who's heard what the rocket stove is? It's some kind of cool little thing, and it's a stove that burns any kind of wood pretty efficiently, really hot, to the Coleman stoves, to whatever. And it was a neat, and then we ate dinner. We had all kinds of food. People brought stuff and we had dinner there at the same time. So those kind of things are good to do. Doing this is just got to keep striving at doing this, because we all come to the meeting. Oh, it was a great meeting. We all leave. When's the next meeting? It's like the most you did to it is, when's the next meeting? And so we're having that same problem in Los Angeles of getting doing this done. And so demonstrations or any kind of activity is a good idea, just to do it. And I really like what I saw here tonight, because I just think, okay, it's very simple, very good, a lot of reality, and I can see light bulbs going off, people's minds on, oh, it's a good idea. It's so simple, most of this stuff, and it doesn't take a lot of money, it doesn't take a lot of time, a little bit of hatting, and you can easily handle a few things. And okay, so the power, there's a big disaster, people are frantic, you can go give some locationals, put some order in the area, you got something at home. And in LA, you better have some frickin' water. That's pretty much the big thing. So the whole idea is to have some stuff put together. That's the whole thing, is preparation. That's what this is about, is preparation. Not to postulate it, but to be at cause, not to spend, 40 hours a month on it. No way, because we got way better things to do than that. But just to kind of get a little bit of cause, a little bit of cause, a little bit more knowledge. And I think that's what we're all doing that way. And you kind of keep it up. You got to keep it up, because here, I talked about that Loma Prieta quake. I found I didn't have some of the basic things again. They just kind of fell out. Batteries, radio. But communication is a good thing. So there's I'm always trying to express the urgency to get your everyday care kit together. If that's the first step, that's what you got to do. And the urgency to have a couple supplies, because if something happened, you're never going to get a warning for this stuff. It doesn't work that way. And then if you're prepared, you're prepared. And then you can survive better. You can help others. You can get the neighbors. You can help the neighbors. Hopefully the neighbors already have gotten some stuff together, because if you're living in that neighborhood and you're the only guy with anything, you will be visited quite a bit. It'd be good to get your neighborhood going, but then you want to get into VM programs. You want to go, half the guys in the LA area, the first thing they want to do is go down to the orgs, go help the orgs, which is great again. And to be able to do that because you're not without everything. You're not going to go to the orgs because they got something for you. No, that's the wrong reason. You need to go help. And it might be some programs and stuff like that. Is situations we prepare to survive with. And I just, this was just some arbitrary numbers: phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 is an event like a hurricane. It lasts for 4 or 5 days. Maybe the power goes out, maybe the power doesn't go out. An earthquake could be a phase 1 event. Power's out, some damage, because we really haven't seen any big earthquakes ever. In LA, the first thing again, do you have any water yet? That's all I keep doing is water. Here, water filters would probably be really good, because there is water. You can survive that way, because you can survive 40 days with no food. You'd probably be pretty hungry, but you'll find something to eat during that time. But you can survive. But I can guarantee you, in LA, if it's 105 like it was a week ago, and you didn't have any water, you'd last like 2 days. Okay, and hunger's not really an issue at that point. And if you've got 7 people in your house and you ain't got water, well, that's a lot of missing water. Who knows about the Rodney King riots?
Oh yeah.
Okay, who was there in the Rodney King riots? Who would have guessed that?
Yeah.
Utter chaos over a trial. Unbelievable. Really unbelievable. So if you're in the middle of something like that, it's like a war zone. And if you're in Burbank, where I lived, it was a party. The grocery stores were all bought out. People were just having barbecues, not going to work. But it's funny, because nothing was happening there. It was all happening in a different spot. But if you're in that other spot, it is a war zone. Now, if that spot was a bigger area, things like security really become important. That's where I bought my first shotgun, was after that. Didn't have one before that. But, if you didn't see roving crowds of people walking down the street going to vandalize, I did. I saw a lot of it, because I was working construction, and we'd be in some pretty seedy neighborhoods even after it happened. And during it happened, they were trying to get a curfew going, but nobody paid attention to it. It was pretty chaotic at that time. That was Rodney King riots. That's a whole different scenario than an earthquake. A big hurricane. Then we can get into, who could imagine your ATM card not working? But all of us, every one of us, who's got money? And what the heck are the stores going to do? And okay, it's a glitch, the Koreans got in there and did something, North Koreans got in there and did something, and we'll get it straightened out eventually. But my God, if it was 2 weeks down the road, it could be a big deal. You know, that'd be a lot of, those guys that only have stuff in the refrigerator for one night, that's a big problem for those guys. And, you know, so traveling is not necessarily the first step. That's why we have these. And you want these in your car. You want these with you wherever, because, you know, again, an earthquake is a dramatic one because, you know, maybe the roads are closed. You ain't driving, period. I can't imagine getting home, walking home in the middle of a hurricane. I don't know if that works very well. Probably better to stay in the car, but because it'd be wet. But in LA, you could, if you could walk home, but you know, you're driving in your car and all you got is sandals. That's it. Well, man, you ever try to walk 20 miles in sandals? You'll probably break in the first 2. And then, you know, so part of this kit, or your car kit, would probably include, hey, just a nice pair of walking shoes. And then here we go again with water. Okay, and my wife always tells me, don't get those water bottles and keep them in your car. They're going to poison you or something like that. Well, that's going to happen a lot longer for that to happen than me dying of dehydration. So,
You need glass ones.
what's that?
You need glass ones. Made out of
Glass ones would be good. Yeah, and I went through that for a while, but I got real lazy. You know, I keep filling them up. I go to work all the time and filling up the glass ones. So I hate to admit I got lazy. But just having water, if you were going to walk home, would be good. Your kit would have what you have, and you know, maybe it's not a one-day trip home, because if anybody knows anything about LA, it's hours, you know, to get anywhere. And if there's, you know, thousands of people also thinking the same idea, that, all right, you might have to deal with crowds of people. How are you going to do with that? But you know what? If there was a big earthquake, there's probably going to be injured people the whole way. And you might want to help some. And you got 2 Flintstone bandages. Okay? No, not right kit for that. Now, I got a nice work truck, and I've got a full backpack. I got a knapsack that I can take only a few things out of it, but my backpack's got, I could go a week pretty easily, and a part of a gun club, and I've got a first aid kit that I don't even know how to use, it's so big. But you know, I could have, I usually keep it with me because I'm in my truck all the time, so I can do that. So your car is the same thing, you can have it with you. Your everyday kit, you have, that's easy to put in a pocket. You know, I wear cargo pants more now because I don't have a purse. So this works really good. So just to have those things, I usually always have one of these, you know, the Leathermans, and I broke my last Leatherman, so now I'm using a Gerber. But just, I always have those because everybody knows what that is, multi-tools, just these little tools. Sure. All right. You know, they turn into pliers. This is a brand new one. I thought it was kind of cool. But if I never have these, I'm taking these to events. I'm going everywhere with these campaigns. I use them all the time, almost every single day. But that's kind of one of the things I do anyway. But I'll be at my sister-in-law's house, and I got to fix the washer. And I'm using this. But it's got a knife, it's got a file, probably got a can opener on it. It's got a couple screwdrivers. It's got a saw, it's got a file. I mean, it's just a handy little tool, and for me it can just go there, and instead of a pocket knife, I find that way more useful.
What's it called again?
Well, these are multi-tools is kind of the generic name. It's a multi-tool, and I happen to like Leatherman as a brand because they're real high quality. They're not cheap, but they're very high quality steel. Gerber is probably the same. This is the first Gerber I've ever had, so I'm testing it. And this is a small one, kind of. You can get really, now my wife I bought, and my daughter I bought little miniature Leathermans that are this size, the full Leatherman. That's kind of what this is, I think, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of what this is.
Oh, yeah.
See? That's a very handy tool. This has got scissors. They got ones that got little pliers, knives, and files and stuff, and it just goes on your keychain. How easy is that? So it's so funny because now my wife and my daughter, they can't go anywhere without it on their keychain. They use it all the time, they say. That's part of my basic everyday carry kit. And then I usually have a flashlight with me, but I kind of cheat a little bit on the everyday kit because I got my truck and I'm never not within a few feet of my truck, literally. But you know, you can have big flashlights. I got big ones, I got little ones, I got super bright ones, I must have 7 flashlights in my truck. And a way to charge them, you know, on the car charger and stuff like that. I have a knapsack in my truck that's empty that I can take things out of my big kit. Again, a truck is kind of cheating a little bit because I have such an advantage over space. If you got a little tiny car, you know, not very practical to load that up with all your, bunch of supplies. Going to a bigger kind of move kit, I have a trailer in the backyard. I've always had a trailer because when we go camping or something like that with a family, I can't carry enough sleeping bags in the damn car, period, let alone anything else. So I ended up getting a little old U-Haul trailer, covered trailer, 4x6, and now that is set up completely with all my camping gear. And if I had to leave the home, I could do that. But my intention is not to leave the home. My intention is with this is just to get home. That's all it really is. And decide what the plan might be. And one of the big things that we talked about, now I heard that time you guys did a meeting with no power on or something like that. Well, that's a perfect example of how to do that because let's see, several months back, I'm at home in the afternoon and some yahoo took out a telephone pole with all the power to the neighborhood. Didn't know that at the time. It's in the middle of the late afternoon and there is no power in the whole area. So again, here we go. How big is it? Don't know. So I turn on the radio in my truck and nobody's even talking about it. Not even news. So that must be a small event. Now, if the radios weren't working, I'd be a little worried because what happened if the radios aren't even working? In the truck and stuff like that. That's a big event. Well, anyway, the guy took out the power. Not a big deal. And I'm the only one at home, and then the rest of the family gets home and they decide, well, they're going into town. It's not even going to stay home. And I need to do some work, so I got out a couple lights and got my laptop, which has a battery, and work, and I did some work outside because it was really warm. But it was, it was very interesting. The neighborhood's completely black. There are no neighbors. Funny, nobody goes outside. It's like, it's deserted. So I go knock on a couple of neighbors' doors to see if they needed anything, needed any help. Turns out they were all fine. One of the neighbors had candles going all over. And I'd given talks, just a couple things about candles. We're not used to candles like the old days, like 1800s and earlier and stuff. Candles burn down everything really easy. So there's a whole etiquette using candles. And you might think, I'm going to light candles all over my house. You might burn your damn house down if you're not careful. Okay, you know how someone goes to the bathroom and they're going to light a match and they light a candle in the bathroom? Well, somebody put a candle on the toilet seat and that was like 8 hours earlier. And everybody's gone. It burned a hole in the toilet seat. So we're not used to candles. I just joke about it, but if you're going to use candles, you better be a little bit wary about, there's a whole etiquette using candles for power if your power's out. And I just asked her, this lady, if she needed any help. And your candles like not going to light anything on fire. She's fine. But that was just a power out one afternoon. It came on, I think like 2 a.m. or something. And it wasn't a big deal, but you just start to get some instant reality. If there was a problem, it's instant. So anything you can do to do instant reality. Camping is the best damn thing. Okay, I always found it was good because when you're camping, you got whatever you brought. That's it. You got whatever you brought, and then we always have this to bring list, next time list, okay? Because what we forgot that we needed, like the corkscrew or a can opener or something like that, It's to bring list. But camping, you find out a lot of stuff camping. And if you've never done any camping as a group, you could do some camping. If you're trying to cook for a group, man, if you got a little pot, you're in some serious trouble to cook for a group. You'll find out all kinds of things. And then how do you clean anything? You're going to learn all kinds of things by doing camping. Whether you do car camping or you go a little bit more remote than that. Last year I went on a 7-day horsebacking trip into the Sierras, and I found out something about that. I'm not as young as I was, man. Oh man, it whooped my ass, let me tell you. I had a hard time walking after a while, period. And my enthusiasm rapidly declined on that trip, but it was a great trip anyway. But I remember being perched on the side of the hill going, God, I think it was 30 years to the day I was here last time. And I bet you it was 30 years to the day that I was last in that position. But I'm not in the shape I used to be in. And there's something about just, if you're walking or something, I don't know. That's why I kind of like the idea of getting home. Just getting home, and hopefully it's good enough at home that you can just weather out the storm till order goes back in. That's what a phase 1 event was. It's a local disaster that doesn't last for too long, and people help each other in the neighborhood, and there's not too much of a disaster. Phase 2 disaster would kind of be statewide. Heaven forbid if it was nationwide. But a big collapse of social services, and they don't turn on in a week or two. That's phase 2. That's where problems are really going to occur with many people, because they have nothing. And if you have nothing and there's more of them than you, that could be a problem. And there's all kinds of books and stories and all kinds of stuff that how that can be, and past examples in other countries and stuff. America's always been so fortunate in this kind of thing. But a phase 2 event is one you wouldn't want to really be involved with, and by God, you better have some stuff together. And that's where a group really gets important. Because if we're talking now, security becomes a big deal. Security's a big deal. And trying to figure out how we can help the orgs too at the same time. Because, talking about one of the main things about the goals here is to help the orgs as well survive, so that, if something goes on for a long time, I don't want them, these are valuable terminals, valuable people. I'd want to be able to help as a group. And again, if I couldn't leave my house because I knew there was some hoodlums down the street, because in my neighborhood, it's a really good neighborhood, but just a few blocks over, not a good neighborhood. Okay? That's where the helicopters go around all the time every night. That's that neighborhood. And, I can't leave everybody to go help others comfortably if it was a more extended kind of condition. And that's where this phase 2 comes in. Order will go back in, order has to go back in, and it will, and you'll be a big part of helping. That's the whole big part of helping put order in. You've got a group, you can put some sanity in the place around you, in your neighborhood, help wherever help is needed. So that's what phase 2 is. It comes back together. And then all the young guys like phase 3. They love this one. This is the end of the world as you know it. Zombie apocalypse. It's when the whole social structure collapses and everything. Well, we don't even go there because it doesn't really matter at that point, because you needed to have your phase 1 together first and a good plan for a phase 2 together, because phase 3 would require that, and not likely to happen either. And I would like to say, hopefully not. Don't look at the internet, because you won't make it a night through without thinking the world's going to end on that stuff. So no, don't look at that stuff, because it just always sounds so dire. And there's lots of good reasons. I've been waiting for, I bought so much damn silver thinking it was going to go way up in value. It hasn't gone up at all. It's gone down. Having some cash on hand. I mean, I've been just going to eat lunch, and the credit card machine doesn't work at the place I go to eat. So nobody's buying lunch unless they have cash. How many people carry cash now? So it's kind of interesting. In my truck, because I have a truck, I've got under the seat a safe bolted to the floor, which is kind of cool. And I got a bunch of money in there, and I got some other stuff in there. It's much bigger than this. This is a great idea for change.
What's that bag called again?
This is one name is a get home bag.
Get home, okay.
Okay, I mean, you might call them bug out bags. The idea of a bug out bag is to leave home, but we don't really like that. I think the best bet is to get home, but it could be a big bag, could be a little bag. I think you call this a one-day bag.
Yeah, it's a get-home bag. The bug-out bag is bigger. That's a backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can have different size ones. I mean, even
This one is a get-home bag kind of thing. We've got all these different pockets and stuff. And, first aid kits in here, and, but that's another style.
yeah, you know, I must have from the kids in school. I must have 20 backpacks, 20 knapsacks for kids going to school. That's a perfect bag, really. And it doesn't look like you're this tactical nutcase. You got Fred Flintstone on the back of your bag, and you're coming home. But I mean, you can carry. I mean, in a bag like that, you can carry a little bit more. Now, again, I go back to L.A. I mean, there ain't never wherever I am. It's 2 days from home. Usually, I'm driving. I mean, Santa Monica to Pasadena would be maybe 3 days. If you weren't able to drive, and it may be a tough 3 days. So my bag is bigger because of that reason. Now I have the small bag, little kid bag, for if I decide I'm gonna leave my truck here. I'll come back and get it next week or something, and then I'll just take the things I want out of my bigger bag and put it in the smaller bag that I can carry easily with my little boots that I wisely brought so I can walk, and a bunch of water. So yeah, you can have big bags, little bags, just any kind of thing. Yeah.
And you're walking home. This is an example that you're stuck someplace else and you're walking home.
Well, that would be it. You see, the thing we have already set up with the family is get to the house. Wherever you are, just figure out a way to get to the house. Because we're kind of off the beaten path a little bit. We're not by any nuclear reactor. Our area is probably pretty safe if you can get there. My wife used to work at Delphi, and it was not very far from there. Now she's at Pasadena, Oregon, which is not very far. But I'm all over LA, and I could be days away if I had to walk. And the reason I'd be walking is because you can't drive. The Northridge earthquake really created a lot of problems. It wasn't that bad. Northridge earthquake wasn't even a big earthquake. It's just called a medium earthquake. But the 10 freeway collapsed, if you know what that one is. The 5 and the 14 collapsed. And there are probably some other ones that had damage too. But other people had major problems. And then I remember looking on the news, and I will never do this, but those guys in Northridge, where the center of it is, there's army trucks, tank trucks, and there are long lines of people waiting to get water out of a green army truck with a pot. Okay, this is on the news, right? I'm going, man, I ain't doing that. I'm going to be a little more prepared than that. Now that was that localized area because they had no water, no electricity for quite some time because it was the epicenter of that quake. And I keep talking about quakes because that's the one that's likely to happen in LA, but if it was some kind of economic disaster, it's going to be more widespread probably. A big ass hurricane, I guess, you take the whole state here, right? I don't know. Not hurricane proof. Tornadoes, I know about tornadoes. I grew up in St. Louis and we used to have tornadoes often. So, but those usually come and they go, and help will come at least. It's not going to turn into a phase 2 ever, because order will come in from other places. And that's what you're always looking for. Order goes back in. So, it's Mother Nature. Who knows what the hell is going to happen to Mother Nature in that respect. So being prepared is probably a good idea. And in that one, I guess if you know you're in a flood area, you'd maybe want to have a plan to leave. But you know, if you had to evacuate for fire, mudslide, you know, floods, well, here you go again with some preparation, okay, beforehand. What is it you would want to take if you were going to leave? You know, where are those phone numbers and your stock certificates and your birth certificate and anything else you got? So, you know, that's part of preparation too. Like if you had to go visit your grandparents for a couple weeks because your area is gone, devastated or something, how would you do that? What would you take? Because when that starts, that kind of emergency starts, again, it's sudden, and you're sitting there going, well, what should I take? What should I take? What should I take?
Write it down.
I mean, what, you know, yeah, there's going to be a couple things you're going to take. And then if you got a lot of stuff, well, now what am I leaving? You know, it becomes a problem. So this is all part of preparedness, right? It's all part of it.
Good. Good. Well, let's hear it from Mark Sly. Our team founders. Here's where we're at. And if something is just like a little phase one kind of disaster, you probably stay home. If you're in a situation where your home is a mobile home, or it's it's in an area that is likely to be flooded, and you're asked to evacuate, then you sure better have have yourself being a member of a club. This is a list of these red dots are clubs that have been formed here in Clearwater. And Gil is running this map here and he's helping to head this up. And you want to come up and just say a couple words about it, Gil?
It's a matter of being willing to take some responsibility for your own safety and well-being. We have, these dots are clubs, people that volunteered their house. And I have this list here. There's 3 pages of the specific. It's better if each club has people that are skilled in each of the pillars. So you know what you can do and what your strong points are. So what you need to do is come up, take a look at the list, and pick out a couple of places that are near where you are. You need to take that responsibility yourself to hook up with other people that is sufficient. Somebody can cook, somebody's good with first aid, somebody's good with repair, somebody's good with security. And so if it comes to that, you're covered. You know, you can survive better if you have the skills that are needed. You know, we can't do it for you. You got to do it yourselves. So.
Right. And to give you an idea on the club thing, we're working on growing some food in our backyard. And so some of the members of our club come over on a Saturday morning, a couple times a month or something like that, and work out in the backyard to get the gardens going. And then we kind of keep it up during the ensuing time. Other thing is, if you're going to be going to a particular club and you've got quite a bit of stored food, well, maybe you'll leave 2 or 3 weeks of stored food at your home, but you go, if it's longer than that, I'm going to be going over to the club, so I'm going to store some food over at the clubhouse. And so you store some food and some tools and the kind of things that you wouldn't want to be lugging over there on a bicycle or by foot or something like that. And so that's where it comes into a little bit of planning and getting organized.